infinite dragonflight has already infiltrated the timeways. We must follow.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Eden, thank you for the resub, babe. 67 months. Appreciate it. And thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes. Oh, that missed. Holy shit, how did I just fucking whiff on everything?
Shield. Dodge. 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 War. War. War.
Tyr is fighting for the infinite? No! This isn't right!
For too long I was bound by the shackles of the Titans. Now my mind is open to infinite possibilities. But your path ends here. Feel the horrors yet to pass.
Enter.
My strike is true.
Dodge.
Behold your annihilation.
Bro, why are people so bad at soaking? How do I end up with like the most fucking stacks of this? I don't even want it. I'm trying to dodge it.
Dodge.
Annihilation is inevitable.
Oh, okay. What up, Siegs? You don't know what this is, but awesome. 7 stream streak. Fuck yeah, dude. That is awesome. 7 streams in a row.
Kind.
Let's fucking go.
Just have to keep telling myself this wasn't really him. Okay, let's fix this. We just need to. Uh-oh.
AoE. 3, 2, AoE. Three, 2, 1. AoE.
But any thoughts playing on NA? I'd have to be very bored to do that. In terms of like, it would be strictly as like a kill time type thing. With my current life circumstances, I don't think there's any way I ever return to North America full time. Because the reason I play on EU right now is in order to make the time zones line up better with what I want for my stream. In order to spend time with family, I want to stream in the morning, which is like not really possible to do in North America because nobody's online. So, what the fuck am I? God, what the fuck? Is it okay? I don't understand why there's a pop-up box for that. Click on the portal. Would you like to attempt to open the rift? No, I just like clicking on shit for no reason.
AoE. Three, 2, 1.
The timeways are even twistier than before.
Is preservation the hardest healer to pug with, or are you just bad? Honestly, I Evoker is one of the healers I've spent. The only healer I've spent like less time on this patch is Resto Shaman, which I don't even have one like geared up. I have not done very many keys with Preservation Evoker, so I'm not sure. My guess is it probably depends a lot. If you have a lot of melee in the group, it should be pretty easy to heal. Everybody should be relatively stacked up. I could definitely see it being an issue if you have like Hunter or fucking Warlock or something in your group and they're just off in Narnia vibing.
The Horde and Alliance are fighting? Well, this could be any point in time.
You hate the Dractyr model? Yeah, that's respectable. That's the cleanest I've ever seen those little shitheads go in my life. Every other time those little terrorist fuckers run out here, I feel like we just run around with our heads fucking cut off for like 30 seconds. And that time, they just all got fucking obliterated instantly. That was beautiful.
Get out there.
All right, time for consecration. Here it comes. Every time, dude, I'm so scared.
We need reinforcements. Rally together.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why Blizz has Evokers turn into dragons when they use certain abilities, because admittedly, it doesn't really make sense to have a human breathing fucking fire everywhere. So I sort of get it, but on the other hand, Evokers look kind of dumb, so... Bro, go the fuck away. What the fuck is your problem, Anduin? Ooh, that dude got fucking drilled. What did I craft this week? My druid crafted a ring. My priest crafted a ring. My monk crafted a ring. Everybody crafted a ring. Alternatively, I gave some thought to crafting engineering bracers for a combat res on my monk and priest, but ultimately it was like, I don't really care that much about Mythic Plus at this point. I'd rather have the ring, especially because my monk was still using a 447 ring. But my next craft on priest and monk will probably be the combat res bracers. And then after that, I don't even know what the fuck I'll craft. Maybe nothing, to be honest. I don't know that... Like, once you start getting 486 gear, naturally, I don't know that there's really any reason to craft shit beyond your embellishments. Like, the only things that I feel like do something that you can't get from normal gear are the rings because they have a socket, lariat because it has an actual decent proc on it, the engineering bracers because they give you combat res, and then after that, it's sort of like... Which is probably not, I mean, all things being equal, it's probably not a bad thing. It was a little weird the last few patches where a lot of your BIS gear was crafted, and it's like, it's okay having a few crafted pieces in the mix, but there was a point where unless your gear had tertiaries on it, or some effect, you know, like, oh shit, there's fire underneath that guy. Unless there's some effect on the gear, you know, like the ring, like the fire ring from first tier, or it had a tertiary on it or something, a lot of the pieces were like, yeah, dude, you just keep crafting every week, or every 2 weeks you craft something because you get to pick your stats, and that's probably better than you could probably design your own stats that are better than something that exists from the loot table. And that felt kind of weird to just be continuously crafting every week, like, oh yeah, or every 2 weeks. Oh yeah, there's something that's an upgrade if I craft it. Oh yeah, another upgrade from crafting. Ooh, another upgrade from crafting. So I think you'll get to the point within like a month where you're just like, yeah, there's nothing left to craft unless like the options for this piece from the loot table are all like really bad stats, like really you know, like if you like haste verse and the only real option for you is like crit mastery, I could see it maybe being like a thing where you're like, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna craft it. Oh fuck, I just rolled that stack. That's my fault. Sorry guys. All right, where's blue hair? Right here.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, where's my person? Oh fuck yeah, on the other side of the platform. Love to see that. Why did my thing not start casting? There we go. Oh yeah, we rolled that stack well. Blue hair, where are you at? You are right here. Let's go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It was supposed to be my time. You all know.
Stuck between a weapon and toxic foot wraps. You were dumb and put an embellishment on your ring last week. I mean, it's not dumb. Like, that was my second craft. Was an embellishment on the ring. Honestly, like the only embellishment at this point that people feel like is like a good embellishment is lariat. Everything else is sort of like, technically better than another item you could get in that slot at the moment, but you know, the kind of thing where it adds a lot of those embellishments are like adding like 1% to your overall or something.
Now we can open the time ways to the past. We only get one chance at this.
Probably should have mounted up.
Traveling to the past takes a lot of power, and I'm no aspect. Here we go.
Marathon shall rise!
Damn, I'm very slow, aren't I? Oh yeah, this group did not even pay a single fucking second of attention to where the healer was.
AoE. AoE. Three, two, one. AoE.
The aspects are just ahead. Wait, the proto-aspect.
Time dilated bracers are supposed to be valued super high. Yeah, are those the ones that give the verse proc? Yeah, I that's what I crafted second on my disc priest was first lariat, then bracers.
They're here, and we must stop them. You have to trust me. Now, we have
Fabricio, thank you for the resub, babe. 15 months, appreciate it, and thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes.
dragons in the ravine.
Yeah, I think those bracers give like the same proc that the chest piece gives for leather. Like I think it's like the same. There's a leather chest piece that I'm pretty sure gives a verse proc, and I think the bracers do the same thing. And it's like, okay, so I can either craft a chest that eats up a tier slot and has stats that may or may not be good for me, like a shitload of stats that may or may not be good for me.
5,
Or I can craft the lowest stat budgeted piece of all my armor and get the same quality of proc for like no opportunity cost.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4,
My thanks, champion.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4.
You are but flies! Reliable, unlike the
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
AoE.
God damn it, dude. Why am I... I popped my fucking bird right there. That was so stupid to try to do that in the middle of that AoE.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I knew I was gonna die trying to just stand next to the boss in the middle of all that shit. That was so dumb of me.
AoE.
Holy shit.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Four. AoE.
This will slow you down.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, that was the last key that I still needed to time on Tyrann. I had not timed a single tyrannical key on Rise, so. Fractured, thank you for the sub, babe. Appreciate it, and welcome to the J-Dot, babes. No loot. What up, Noel? Rise just feels so hard compared to every other dungeon this year. Yeah, definitely. I would say outside of outside of tier, which I feel like is not really that difficult of a boss. Maybe on like super high keys it gets more difficult just because of the raw damage that some of that shit does, but that one feels doable. Just dispel someone instantly and the other person needs to like have a defensive, and it doesn't even happen that often, so you probably have a defensive every time it comes out. Morchi is, I feel like, one where the fight gets dramatically easier when you coordinate. Like if people actually like CC their ads and don't just slam all of the fucking traps on top of each other, if you like stagger it, I think that one becomes a lot easier. Battlefield is like legitimately one of the scariest fights in this expansion. That shit is not fun. And then Deus feels like it just scales, like the damage on that just scales really fast. What up, Soul? Okay, so we need 3 more dungeons this week. So I've done everything else on Tyrannical, right? I have a Tyrannical BRH. Yes, yes. Oh, I wanted everything Tyrannical 20 or above, and I think we have now achieved that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so character has all Tyrannicals at 20 or above. All right, now I guess maybe we aim for some like, I don't think the problem is that now this character I don't think has like a single thing that he can upgrade from dungeons without there being like tertiaries on it. I think I actually have like BIS dungeon gear. I have my set. I have a haste verse cloak. I don't think I really want to upgrade that. It has speed on it too. I have crit verse bracers. I think I'm okay with that. I have crit verse gloves that eventually I'll catalyze to tier. I guess I could try to farm the... Part of the other problem is I keep getting fucking mythic leather tier on all my characters from my vault. Like, I know that the leech legs are probably BIS for like druid and monk, but of course both those characters, one of their first vaults was like mythic tier legs. So I'm not in a rush to like swap those out. Otherwise, crit ace belt, crit verse boots, 2 crafted rings, probably BIS trinkets from dungeons, a 489 weapon. So other than farming those legs for eventually replacing my tier, which probably wouldn't be for a while, I don't think there's a single thing from dungeons now that, other than, I guess, farming aspects, which I incidentally forgot I have enough of now to upgrade something. So, okay. what does this character still need to upgrade? Cannot upgrade my helm any further. I could do shoulders. I could do cloak. I could do bracers. I could do belt. I think I started updating my belt. Yeah, I already put 1 point into that, so we'll finish that up.
Valdrakken quality.
Okay.
Turn silver.
So we will be able to get 30 more, so we'll be able to upgrade one more piece to 483. So it could either be boots or gloves or shoulders. Each of those has the same stat budget. I've already done trinkets, I've already done weapon, I've already done everything. Helm, chest, and legs. So probably either boots or I'm hesitant to upgrade my tier pieces because I feel like that is what I would take from Vault if it dropped. Which would be on the mythic track, which would then mean that any of the points I had put into these pieces was wasted. So I think I am at the point now where I would just put points into probably like boots, maybe? Put boots, and then if either gloves or shoulders drop, then we take those. Mythic. And then next week, if I do boots and belt, or I've already done belt. So if I do boots next, then next week I would do gloves, shoulders, and bracers. And then I would have everything at 483. Except for my rings, which need to be recrafted. I just need to wait till I have aspects to recraft these, but I'm not in a rush to do that because ring eye level is sort of pointless. These are already better than 489 non-socketed rings, so this will be one of the last things I upgrade. But probably the last thing I upgrade with aspects is these rings. Is Shadow Priest useless and lower than 10 says it needs to ramp up? I mean, I don't know that... I don't mean, like, I'm aware that there's people out there that run keys lower than 10, but at that point, I don't think it really matters at all what spec you play. Started healing for the first time with disc. Do you hold Mindbender for ramp, and do you keep Mind Blast to pair with Mindbender? I've been treating them as DPS cities, which probably isn't ideal, but it's mostly fine up to 15s. You should always pair your Mind Blast with Mindbender, unless you've somehow fucked your Mindbender cooldown up so badly that you will be able to Mind Blast again before Mindbender comes up. But assuming you're getting good uptime on smiting in keys, which should be even easier. I mean, in keys, usually, like, there's not a lot to prevent you from just, like, smite. You should be bringing your Mindbender back often enough that you won't really have time to Mind Blast in between Mindbenders. So, for all practical purposes, you can assume that you're just Mind Blasting with your... Like, it wouldn't be wrong, really, to just only Mind Blast with Mindbender. The number of times that it would make sense to Mind Blast outside of your Mindbender are so small that if you just never did that, you wouldn't have any real downside to that. So you can kind of treat them as a paired cooldown. As far as holding Mindbender for ramp, you should be trying to send Mindbender as often as you can in keys because it's both a damage and healing cooldown. In the same way that Holy Paladin Wings, like it's sort of the same idea as Holy Paladin Wings, which is Holy Paladin Wings, you should be trying to send on CD and keys. Even if you didn't necessarily need it for healing, you should be trying to send it for damage, unless there is some big healing event coming up that you know you're going to need it for, that you're like absolutely going to need it for. So Mindbender would be the kind of thing where on a trash pull, I'm probably using it on CD, unless it's a trash pull like, if we're doing Dawn and we're doing like Galakron's Fall, and but let's say we're doing the double dragon packs here. So I am, if let's say we do this pull and we're on like one of the dragons is almost dead and my mindbender comes back up. Maybe I know the dragon's not going to live long enough for me to send mindbender and then farm CDR on it to bring it back. So maybe I like hold mindbender at the end of that pull because I'm like, no, I need it at the start of this pull. Or maybe on like a second boss of Dawn, when you know the winds are coming out on phase 2, if your mindbender comes up like at the start of the like let's say you're in phase 1 of the boss, and you transition it, and like maybe mindbender's available right at the start of the transition, like maybe you hold it because you're like, no, I need healing during the winds, so you don't send it on CD there, you hold it a little bit longer. But basically, if there's a damage event that's more than like 30 seconds away, just send mindbender and farm it back. Your goal should be to use mindbender as much as that's the attitude you should go into a key with, is like, I should be pressing this as much as I can, and then if there's something I'm scared of where I'm worried I won't have mindbender back if I use it right now, either like there's like one of two ways that would happen. Either the thing is just close enough in time that you're worried that mindbender just won't be back even if you're spamming smite. Or it could be a thing where you're worried that if you send mindbender right now, you may be prevented from casting smite, and maybe you just don't get your mindbender back. Like a particularly hectic boss. I'm trying to think of an example of a boss where you just have trouble, like because of the mechanics of it. Something like I don't even know honestly what boss at this point would qualify. Like let's say it's a bad example, but like Lord and Lady, when they start spawning all the swirlies underneath you and you're having to like dodge, like maybe you're like, oh fuck, I'm scared that, but like the problem is that there's nothing threatening later in the dungeon, so it doesn't really matter if your mindbender doesn't come back up. But something like that where you're like, fuck, I'm worried that if I pop mindbender right now, I'm gonna have a bunch of shit I'm gonna have to like move around for, and won't be able to just stand there and spam smite, and then maybe my mindbender won't be back up in time. Most of the time, I would say you're just worried about if something is coming up shortly. If there's a phase that you're gonna have to heal, like Inatol. If you're doing Priestess, you know, she's got her phase where she slurps your blood, and if you send mindbender on pull, maybe you don't have it back in time for that, so like maybe you hold it a bit to make sure that you're gonna be able to pop it on that slurp. Or with the asthma, maybe you try to hold mindbenders till right after you get the ads spawning, because everyone's going to take a bunch of damage there. But like I said, your goal should be to try to use it as much as possible. And then only if you feel very concerned about a damage event should you be like, oh yeah, I need to sit on it. But if you're sitting on it for more than 30 seconds, it's probably not the right play. Is Pip a good trinket for Mistweaver? I believe Pip is a good trinket for... Let me check this. Somebody asked about this, about whether Pip was good for a certain healer, and I feel pretty confident stating that Pip is good for every healer in the game, but let me, before I just say that unequivocally, let me double check. Okay, so... trinkets for Druid Dungeon. Pip is, according to this log... Now, I would need to import gear, but safe to say that it may not be your actual BIS trinket here, but it's at least a very good trinket. So it's good for Druid and Dungeon. It's good for Druid and Raid. It is good for Pally and Raid. It's good for Pally and Dungeon. It's good for Evoker and Dungeon. It's good for Evoker and Raid. It is good for Disc Priest and Raid. It's good for Disc Priest and Dungeon. It is good for Mistweaver in dungeon. It's good for Mistweaver and Raid, but it's actually probably among all healers, it looks like Pip might be the weakest for Mistweaver. I think it's going to be really good for Resto Shaman. Actually, well, not bad, but kind of surprised that Tearstone is that good. Yep, good in dungeons. And then Holy Priest, it should be good for Holy Priest. Yep, good for Holy Priest in dungeon. It should be really good in Raid. Yep. Although Tearstone, I don't understand what the fucking deal is with Tearstone. Anyway, yeah, it's at the very least, it's a very good, it may not be literal BIS, depending on your gear and stat priorities. Pip may not be a literal top 2 trinket for every spec, but at the very least, if you have Pip, you're in good shape. It's not a mid or bad trinket for any healer. It's at least a good trinket for every healer. It is some healers' best trinket, but if you get it on any healer, you should know that, like, I have just gotten my hands on a good trinket. Naturally, the only one of my healers that has pips is my fucking rat Holy Paladin. Do I think next X-Pack they work Fort and Tranicle? I have no idea. I think Fort and Tranicle have been in need of a rework for fucking, like, since they were invented. And the fact that they haven't done it yet makes me think that they may just feel that Fort and Tranicle are good and don't need changes, because they have played with the numbers on Fort and Tranicle a bit. Tranicle more than Fort. They played with the numbers a bit, but they haven't really changed the core concept of those two affixes. And they seem like they could have done that. I mean, the problem with Tyrannical hasn't changed. The reason why people don't like Tyrannical has stayed the same since the day it was invented. Making bosses harder seems to make a dungeon harder than making trash harder for most dungeons. There's a few where that wasn't always the case. But for the most part, boss scaling feels more punishing than trash scaling. So that's been a problem since the dawn of Mythic Plus, and they haven't really done, like I said, they tuned down Tyrannical a bit. It used to be like much worse in terms of how much, especially how much boss health it added. It just made some of those boss fights like 6-7 minutes long. But they haven't really changed the concept of it, which makes me think they just don't think it's a problem. Now, maybe they could surprise me, but at this point, I wouldn't expect changes to Fort and Tyrannical. If it happens, I'd be pleasantly surprised. But emphasis on surprised. Hang on, give me 1 minute. I need to go upstairs and do something real quick. I'll be right back. Okay. You know you're gonna get zero sympathy being a Mistweaver, but the second boss on Everbloom this week is actually awful. I mean, it's definitely worse than if you're ranged, but I feel like it's really. I feel like in some ways the fight for Mistweaver seems worse than it actually is, because unless your DPS are like fucking griefing you and dropping the poison directly underneath the boss, even if the poison is dropped slightly to the side of the boss, there's still plenty of room to hit. So basically, I just like wait till the tank charge is about to happen, and then I just kind of like take a few steps off the boss and then roll back onto it as soon as the poison circles drop. And realistically, you're only going to lose a couple seconds up time off the boss doing that. You basically just need to like front load a lot of your healing on that fight until one of the two ads is dead, and then after that it should be pretty chill. Why is everyone playing Mistweaver? Well, I'm just doing weeklies on it, but for what it's worth, I mentioned this in General Hospital earlier today. There's not, like, if you look at the top of the leaderboards, it's mostly druids and priests right now, and I don't know why there's not I don't know why there's not more Mistweavers, because every time I do keys on Mistweavers, I'm just like, Jesus, this feels good. In a way that it reminds me of 10-1-5 Holy Paladin. Like the way I feel when I play it, where it just feels like I have buttons for everything, reminds me of 10-1-5 Holy Paladin. Now Monk's a little less fucking tanky than that and does a bit worse DPS than that. But Balloon's Gift is now a fucking bomb of a heal, and Chi-Ji is good for like extended healing checks. You've got Revival often enough that it acts as kind of, you know, any fight where you need something to chain between Shayloons and Chi-Ji, you know, you can Revival in a pinch. It's got really good just passive healing. It's like super, like Expel Harm is the reworked Expel Harm feels like one of the strongest. I feel like that has been a sleeper addition to the Mistweaver kit. Like, new Expel Harm feels so fucking good. It is the equivalent of like Renewal on Druid, but Renewal is a 1.5 minute CD, and Expel Harm comes up every 15 fucking seconds. No PI, no less, no B-Res. I don't think no less is really that big of a deal because most comps have it. No B-Res might be a bigger thing than I'm giving it credit for, because I have, for instance, there's been groups where I've played my Druid and I'm like, yo, you guys want me to bring Mistweaver to this? And they're like, we need a battle res. And I'm like, all right. Now, that may start changing as people get their, bracers. Like, I don't think combat res bracers were on anyone's list on first two crafts, but my guess is there's a lot of people that have earmarked bracers as their third craft. But they're like, all right, I want to get my I want to get lariat and my whatever, like put a ring, get a ring, but the third, if you prioritize Mythic Plus right now, my guess is that combat res bracers were like your third craft, or at least your fourth. I could definitely see people being like, I'm going to do like neck and both rings. Like I did neck and both rings on my Mistweaver, but the next thing I craft will be combat res bracers. Because after that, I don't even know if there's anything I want. By the time I craft that, it'll be, because that'll be 2 weeks from now. And then 2 weeks after that, when I would have a chance to craft the next thing, I feel like I'm going to have a lot of 489 gear in most of my slots. And I just won't even want to craft shit at that point. It just won't even be like an upgrade. So after the bracers, I don't even know what the fuck I would craft. If I played DPS, what would I play? I mean, I'd bottom probably, whatever the fuck, you know, Havoc or Og. Mark of the Wild better than 4% avoidance, 4% healing, and 5% physical damage. Are all monks actually taking 4% avoidance and 4% healing? I guess 8% healing. I don't know. The thing is, people treat Mistweaver as if they have all these things, but I feel like a lot of the things that Mistweavers take, you have to like trade off. Avoidance, maybe? Yeah, yeah. Well, the healing one, it's 10 yards is restrictive. I mean, it's not that hard to be 10 yards, like further than 10 yards away from somebody. Now, as a Mistweaver, I feel like you could be pretty confident that that's going to apply to the tank and melee in the group, which at this point, you know, a lot of the comps are, you know, you're going to have Havoc in most of your groups. You're going to have Rogue in a lot of groups. Ogvoker's limited range will probably keep it within 10 yards a decent chunk of the time. But I could also very easily envision a lot of fights where your Og is not just organically in range all the time. And if you have any range class like a BM Hunter or Warlock or something, they are likely not within 10 yards. So I wouldn't take it as assumed that everyone is getting 8% increased healing. But yeah, I mean, I think it is nice. Now the catch is that when you compare Mark of the Wild versus what a monk brings, Mark of the Wild is a 3% damage increase for anybody. It doesn't matter what kind of damage you're doing. Mystic Touch is at best, like you can't even say that Mystic Touch is at best a 5% damage increase, because everybody is for sure doing some form of damage that's not physical. You're going to be using like a trinket or a weapon proc or something that's not physical damage. So even in the best case scenario, you're not getting 5% damage. But in a more realistic sense, if you look at, for instance, like the meta tanks right now, you're looking like Prot Pally Vengeance, they're definitely not getting full value out of Mystic Touch. They're doing either Vengeance is buffing a lot of its own damage via Chaos Brand, or Paladin is doing like a lot of holy damage, which will not be being buffed by Mystic Touch. You look at the meta DPS, you got Havoc, which is going to be doing, I mean, you're buffing some damage from Havoc, but a lot of their damage again is buffed by either Mystic Touch or Chaos Brand, and they're bringing Chaos Brand. You've got Ogvoker, who admittedly is not doing much of their own damage, but the damage they are doing that's their own is going to be a lot of magic damage. If you're bringing like BM Hunter or Rogue, depending on which Rogue spec, like BM Hunter will be a lot of, like that will be a big value on Mystic Touch. But if you're bringing like Rogue, depending on which Rogue spec you bring, a decent chunk of their damage is magic. Then as a monk, a lot of your damage is going to be physical. But again, if you're running like DPS trinkets, a lot of that damage will probably be magical. Let's see, what was my... Like most of your natural damage from your own spellbook is physical. But if you're running any sort of trinket or weapon damage, you know, if you're running Iridol or Vakash, or you're playing Baloralos, I don't know what kind of damage Rage Heart is. I'm assuming it's like fire damage. Oh, Shadow Flame, yeah. So that won't be Mystic Touch. It's insane that Disc, Mistweaver, and Druid are all just as good, if not better, and have a fucking raid buff. I mean, it's clear that Blizzard considers Bloodlust to be a raid buff. That, like, whether or not they admit that, it's how they have. It's a consistent theme of Bloodlust, except for fucking Mage for whatever reason. Let's not get into that. I don't know why the fuck Mage has Bloodlust and Int buff. But every other Bloodlust class, it has like no raid buff, and it's obvious that they've made that a consistent thing. They finally gave Hunters their shitty little thing, 80% or above thing, but they have just left Bloodlust classes as like Bloodlust, like that's the thing you bring is Bloodlust. And let's be real, if your group doesn't have Bloodlust becomes the most important thing. So to say like, oh well, Shaman doesn't have a raid buff is sort of like, in raid, certainly. That, I mean, and this is where using the term raid buff is very often a sort of misnomer, because there are times where the raid buff is like just a general buff. It's not, its value is not specific to raid, it's any group you're in. But in the context of keys, Bloodlust is usually very valuable as a 5-man cooldown, and much less likely that you bring it naturally with just any comp. There were several comps in Season 1 where you did not have Bloodlust unless you like engineered that, unless you specifically brought a spec that you were not otherwise necessarily going to bring, but you're like, well, fuck, we don't have a Bloodlust, we got to bring one. And it was your healer a lot of times. In Raid, it's almost impossible, like, for all practical purposes, it is impossible to build a raid comp without Bloodlust. Like, you would have to go out of your way to build a raid comp without Bloodlust. And keys, much more likely. Now, part of that calculus got fucked up by Og, because Og brought a Bloodlust and then was otherwise so good that it would be difficult to... You actually had 2 Bloodlusts last season in your group. But at the same time, if you built a comp with no Bloodlust in it, which we're not actually that far away from this season. If they nerfed Og to the point where you didn't bring it, we're looking at tank and healer that like the meta tanks and well, no tank brings Bloodlust, but the tank and healer meta are not Bloodlust classes. Havoc, not Bloodlust. Rogue, not Bloodlust. Other popular now, BM is sort of popular. That would be a Bloodlust. But like Warlocks are strong DPS, not Bloodlust. If Og got nerfed to the point where you didn't bring it, I could very easily see you building a comp with no Bloodlust in it, and then you'd need your healer to bring it. And if that was the case, if we got to the point where the comp did not have a Bloodlust on the DPS or tank, then Preservation Evoker and Resto Shaman would like shoot to the top of it. It would be the most guaranteed invite in a group. If you like, Bloodlust is probably the because several different classes bring Bloodlust, it is the least likely buff to not be present in your group. But if it is not present, it is the most locked in buff for the 5th slot. If you build a comp with 4 people that don't have Bloodlust, for sure that 5th guy has Bloodlust. And because that will be the healer, you're not going to start with building. You're not going to put the healer in the comp first. You're going to pick your tank and DPS, and then if that 5th slot, if the first 4 don't have Bloodlust, that 5th slot absolutely will. So if we get to that point, Shaman and Preservation Evoker will be like hard locked into the meta. And that's what we saw in like Season 1 MDI. That was a lot of what dictated the MDI comps in Season 1. Was you had what was the tank Season 1? Was it Vengeance? It was Vengeance and Warrior. Or was it Prop? No, it was Prop Pally or Warrior Season 1. So it was Warrior into Prop Pally. And then in MDI they had like Feral, Shadow, Unholy DK. And then towards the end of the season, it became Disc and Mage were paired together. So sometimes you would have, which is like what allowed you to bring Disc over Shaman or Evoker, was that the Mage brought your Bloodlust. But if you didn't have Mage in the comp, very often it was one of the Prots, then Shadow Priest, Feral Druid, Unholy Decay, and guess what? No Bloodlust. So what was the healer? It was always Preservation Evoker until they buffed Shaman, and then people started bringing Shaman because Shaman damage was good on single target. And that's exactly what would happen again if you had a comp that was like that, where you had the tank and 3 DPS already set up and none of them had Bloodlust. You would absolutely bring Preservation or Resto Shaman every time. It's just the seasons haven't set up like that so far this expansion. But I will say, if they gave like Shaman a real raid buff, I feel like they would have to make Bloodlust a universal cooldown. I think it's bullshit that Bloodlust can be as powerful of a cooldown as it is, and then you would give a class that had Bloodlust another raid buff on top of that. In that respect, I think Mage is like the most bullshit class in the game, that they have both Bloodlust and a very legitimate raid buff, like one of the stronger raid buffs. I think it's ridiculous that they have both of those things. And if they started giving all the Bloodlust classes raid buffs, if Shaman had a thing that made it desirable independent of Bloodlust, it would just feel like way too valuable for a 5-man group. And I feel like we're at the point. I mean, if we're going to treat Bloodlust as, because that's the problem, is enough classes have Bloodlust that it has been started to be viewed as a commodity. It's not. It's just that the meta has set up enough that it has been present in most comps. But I feel like we should just, like, in that discussion, give everybody Bloodlust in the form of like an item, or make it like the limit, whatever the fuck the Final Fantasy equivalent of whatever the fuck their thing is, limit break. Make it something like that where anybody in the group can use it, and then just give the Bloodlust classes right now their raid buffs and be done with it. Remove interrupts from healers. Why would we want to remove interrupts from healers? Remove it and just leave drums? I would prefer not to have an item. Like, I would prefer not to require people to have like an item for that kind of shit. But I do think that you could make, honestly, like, make Battle Res and Bloodlust. They almost already have the system in place for this. There's a pool of Battle Reses that you can use. Just let every class use it, and they sort of almost have with combat res, or with engineering bracers. They've given everybody the option to have it. It's a shittier version of combat res, certainly. You have to stand there and cast it. You have to be in melee range, blah blah blah. But everybody can get access to a combat res. Everybody can get a shitty version of Bloodlust. And they already have limitations on how you can use it. There's already sated, and there's already the battle res charge system. So just give everybody a battle res, and you're limited simply by how often you can use them. Give everybody Bloodlust. You're limited by sated and how often you compress it. And then do the raid buffs however you're going to do them at that point. You got C-Star and Blood on your Resto Druid. Which one do you go for? I think Genosar Blood is slightly better than C-Star for virtually every healer. They're almost always very similar in terms of performance, but I think the Genosar Blood is usually a bit better. For Druid especially, I feel like you're probably not stacking crit. So you probably have a lot of... one of the issues with Blood is that if you have any amount of natural crit, the proc on Genosar Blood is so fucking fat that it will probably push you into DR, which diminishes the value of the trinket slightly. But Druid is unlikely to be stacking a lot of crit naturally, and so you probably have enough room under the first DR that you can take that entire Genosar Blood proc and get full value out of it. Whereas if you were on a spec like Disc Priest or Mistweaver that value crit a little more heavily than Resto Druid does, you are probably naturally giving yourself enough crit that you would push at least slightly over the DR with that proc. How do Mistweavers heal through the runic mark portion of Witch's boss in Warcraft? I mean, I would imagine just Chi. I don't think I've done a high enough Waycrest on this character to feel like it was lethal, no matter what I did, so I'm not sure, but I don't know why Chi wouldn't be enough to just heal through Runic Mark. You don't really have to hold CDs for any other part of that fight. I mean, I guess on higher keys, Selena's healing reduction might feel a little sketchy during her phase, but you shouldn't need any healing cooldowns during the third boss that does the nettles. And Life Cocoon should like just completely absorb a nettles cast, even if the person can't like get rid of it with a bleed room. I mean, if you have like an evoker in the group, they should just be able to dispel that. But worst case scenario, Life Cocoon should like absorb the full nettles no matter what. So you should be able to just send like both Chi-Ji and I think Shaylun's Gift in the second boss phase every time. And I don't know. I mean, I guess the fight time is variable depending on how long it takes to push through each boss, but the higher the key goes, the longer you'll have between each phase. So you would almost certainly have Chi-Ji back up by the time you came back around to the second boss. All right. It says the ad ends in like 5 seconds, so I'm just going to assume I'm good. So raid healing this patch. I mean, I've opted into playing Disc Priest, which I feel like probably makes what I'm about to talk about more of an issue for that spec specifically, but it feels very much like a lot of my healing is burst healing, or at least that's my value to the raid, is my ability to burst heal. And like I said, that's like a very disc thing. But one case where I've noticed this in particular is there is a build for Resto Druid if you play double Life Bloom, where you can do, and it was like even more so the case, I think, back in tier 1. You could do very good sustain healing on the fight by running double Life Bloom, and at that point you leaned into Verdancy because Verdancy was doing a shitload of healing. So you just put out like 2 Life Blooms, and if it was a fight where the group stacked and you could get your F-Flow underneath everybody for long periods of time, so like Kurog was a fucking fantastic fight for this. You would just put out both Life Blooms, drop F-Flow into the group, and you would do a shitload of sustain healing. But even if you could do the same amount of HPS as a rejuve-oriented build, it was considered a less valuable healing profile because the healing was relatively static throughout the fight. And all things being equal in today's raid environment, that is considered a shitty type of healing. If you do flat HPS throughout the whole fight, even if it's a high amount of flat HPS throughout the whole fight, that is usually considered to be less valuable than burst healing, because oftentimes the lethal parts of the fight are just when you get slammed with a bunch of damage in a short period of time. And so even though the double healing build, double life bloom healing build on Resto Druid could do maybe as much healing or potentially even more than the Rejuve build, the Rejuve build gave you these fat fucking convoke windows where you would get Rejuves on everybody and then flourish with either the button or with a convoke proc, and then you would just lock in this like super elevated window of healing and then go back to like, oh, I got to build my Rejuve up again. And to me, that's part of the problem. I feel like this tier or this expansion, more than ever, it is super critical to have your timers laid out as a healer in advance. Like, know exactly when you're pressing things. In the past, I feel like that's been the sort of realm of like parsers, like planning out all their shit to the T to be like, I'm going to get full value out of everything. I want rank 1, so I'm going to make sure that I know exactly when to press my buttons. And if you kind of winged it, you would do less healing, but it would still be good. But now it gets to the point where it feels like if you're slow by a few seconds, you've just like missed, you know, your opportunity. And I don't like that. I don't like... It's the same deal in keys now, where you... Because I think back to... Like, I know I talked about this on Max's stream at some point. I think back to BFA. And when you looked at the BFA profile for Druids, the healing profile, there were, like, no cooldowns. And I mean that in, like, a literal sense. The only cooldown you had as a Druid that was longer than 30 seconds was Trank, which was, like, not any better in keys back then than it is now. In fact, I don't even remember if Trank had the 100% healing boost on it at that point. I don't even remember if it gained value in 5-mans compared to Raid. I think it may have just been the same in Raids as in 5-mans, so I think it may have been even shittier. Like, it's not a good cooldown now in keys, and I think it may have been even shittier back then. You did all of your healing in 5-man dungeons as a Resto Druid with Life Bloom for photosynthesis. You'd put Life Bloom on yourself or on the tank. You know, if the tank was getting shit on, you put it on them. If it was a bunch of group healing, you put Life Bloom on yourself. You keep outflow down, and then you just use Soul of the Forest wild growths to do your AoE healing. And that by itself was like enough. By just putting out rejuves, using your Soul of the Forested, in fact, now that I think about it, I don't even think I used Soul of the Forest back then. I think I used Colt. Because back then you had 20, or was it 30-second Swiftman, and you could talent it down to like 25 with Prosperity. I think it may have been 30-second Swiftman, so you couldn't even Soul of the Forest that often. I think maybe I was using Cultivation. And you just had like your rotational, like what I would refer to as like your rotational kit. And by that, usually when I describe something as rotational, I mean anything that's like, I mean, it's a little vague as to where that cutoff would be, but I would say any ability that's like 30 seconds or less cooldown, I would describe as a rotational ability. You're using it relatively frequently. And then anything 30 seconds, there's a little bit of wiggle room between like 30 seconds and a minute. But in my mind, anything, like I wouldn't necessarily call Shayloon's Gift a rotational ability, even though it's a 40-second CD. But anything that's like 30 seconds or less, I'd describe as a rotational ability. And Druid did almost all of its healing in BFA through rotational abilities. I was never looking at my cooldowns being like, oh, fuck, am I going to have something ready for this? Like, Wild Growth was like my AoE healing CD. And I enjoyed that playstyle immensely more than where we're at now, where there are boss abilities where if you don't have an explicit cooldown ready for it, it feels more like PvP now, where you have to trade cooldowns with a boss. The boss has a big AoE ability coming up. You have to have a healing CD ready for that. You cannot use rotational abilities to heal through it. If you don't have Chi-Ji or Mindbender or Convoke or Daybreak or something ready to trade into that boss ability, you just die. You cannot summon enough HPS to heal through it without having a button, a cooldown to press into it. And I hate that shit. I hate relying on cooldowns as a healer. I just want my rotational abilities to be enough. And I don't mind having cooldowns, but I don't feel like they should be that strong. I think they should be nice. But a lot of the cooldowns at this point are so good that you almost like shut your brain off when you press them. That like you just know that you are about to do enough healing that unless you're doing world first level keys, you are going to do enough HPS to do whatever the thing, you know, to match whatever amount of damage the boss is going to do. And the only parts of the key that become stressful are like, how do I get back to my cooldown? You know, okay, all of my shit's on CD. How do I heal through this? And that's not fun. I don't like feeling like I feel like I have no agency in between my cooldowns in a key. And in Raid too. You know, on Disc Priest, like on Disc Priest right now, it's like literally, here are my cooldowns. And once I've pressed my cooldowns, my entire rotation or my entire gameplay loop is getting that cooldown back as fast as I can in the form of CDR. I press Mindbender. I press a few buttons to do healing after Mindbender comes out. My Mind Blast and Penance, and then Penance one more time. And then outside of that, I am pressing Smite as much as I can to get back that fucking Mindbender, because I know that it doesn't matter what the fuck I press. If I don't have Mindbender rolling when I do it, it's probably not going to do fuck all for healing. And I think Disc Priest is like the pinnacle of that kind of gameplay, certainly because of the CDR element of it. But I feel like it's emblematic of where we are in the healer meta, where the entire Disc Priest like gameplay loop right now is pressing CD and then pressing the buttons to bring the CD back as fast as it can. And I guess I'm not a fan of that. Now, I guess the good news about Disc Priest is you can bring Mindbender back so fucking fast now that it almost becomes a rotational ability. If you spam enough smites, you can basically press it on your 30-second Radiance window, and that actually feels kind of good to have Mindbender every fucking 30 seconds. So in that sense, actually, Disc Priest is maybe closer to what I would like to see every healer have, which is the ability to do legitimate healing more than once every minute and a half. But I feel like a lot of the healers don't really have a spot healing profile anymore. They just have their buttons that spam massive AoE HPS, oftentimes sort of automatically. And there's like when I play on Disc Priest right now, it's like I just Rapture, start rolling it on people regardless of like the state of their health. Just, you know, blah, 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 go up and down the frames as fast as I can until Rapture's done. Then I press 2 fucking Radiances that will automatically, you know, the only thing that matters is who I cast, like the one person that I choose to cast it on. And oftentimes that's more about where they're standing to make sure you get coverage on the raid rather than who actually needs the healing. And most of the selection from that is just automatic. And then maybe I like spot heal one person if they didn't get atonement and they're missing health. Then I lock it in with evangelism and start slamming my buttons, and it doesn't matter at that point. I'm not looking at who's missing health at that point because it's so important that I like blast my CDs. It's just like, I hope I had atonements on the people that need them. Time to fucking DPS. And one of the things I will say, the healing profile that I would maybe look at historically as being the one that I appreciated the most among all healers, even though I'd never played it at the time that it was occurring, was like Holy Paladin when it relied on wings as a healing cooldown. Like back when wings was the Holy Paladin cooldown and not just like kind of a secondary button that you use. Paladin and Wings was, I thought, maybe the best raid healing cooldown of any of the healers, because all it did was elevate the buttons that you're going to press next. Like by itself, if you just pressed Wings and did nothing, it was a meaningless cooldown. It did no healing on its own. It made all the other buttons that you're going to press after that do more healing, and for an extended period of time. And I always really appreciated that about, and Tree of Life, yeah, Tree of Life, same thing. You press a button, and now if all you do is press Tree of Life and stand there, you're not doing shit. You got to then press your other buttons to do more, which is part of the reason why I hate healing cooldowns like fucking Trank or Healing Tide Totem or Revival, is that you press it and it just does a shitload of healing, and you had like no part in that, other than when you chose to press the button. You're doing the healing and you're not involved in it at all. And I appreciated healing cooldowns like Tree of Life, like Wings, or like Ascendance, where you get a cooldown, but like the value of the cooldown is that it's buffing the healing that you're going to be doing, not making all the healing just like fucking happen. And I feel like we have less of those now. Isn't Disc My Meta the same kind of thing where you have to prep atonements? Sort of, but like there's no real, like, disc ramp isn't really thoughtful, in the sense that you especially care about who you're putting atonements on, which is sort of, that's kind of the thing, is because a lot of times you're building your ramp off of predicted damage, you don't necessarily know in advance, unless it's raid-wide damage, you don't necessarily know in advance who's going to take the damage. When you're doing some of these ramps, or you know that everyone's going to take damage, and therefore it doesn't really matter who you put your atonements on because they're all going to be taking damage. So it's not really like thoughtful. And I know sometimes people use the term whack-a-mole healing to be like an epithet, like they use that with a negative connotation. But to me, that's a more interesting healing style. Like, one of my favorite actual healing profiles of the last few years was when I played Holy Priest at the end of Shadowlands, because Flash Concentration was just like finding people in raid that were missing health and then slamming a heal on them. And it felt good to know that you were like saving lives. You know, like some guy drops low, boom, slap a fucking Serenity on him, and then fucking heal, and like you watch the helpers like chunk upwards, and that you felt much more of like a connection to your healing that way. With Disc Priest, I don't really feel a connection to my healing. You know, I spam my atonements, I extend them, I press my Mindbender, I Mind Blast. I know that I'm doing healing, but I don't really feel like I feel a detachment from that. I can watch the meter explode when I do everything. I know in a sort of abstract way that the healing is occurring, but I don't really feel like I'm a part of it necessarily. Whereas when I was playing Holy Priest with Flash Concentration, there was much more thoughtfulness behind every heal. You're finding people that are missing health, and then you are filling that health. You're finding people missing it and then filling it. Finding people missing it and then healing it. And with Disc Priest, I don't find people that are missing health. I spam, and to say like, well, you're predicting it. I'm not. Like, it's just, you're bullshit. You're not predicting shit on Disc Priest. Nobody fucking uses the Force to predict. You just go look at boss timers. Like, it's disingenuous to say like, well, as a Disc Priest, you have to have skill to. No, you don't. You just go look at fucking logs. if you were fighting a new boss every attempt and you had no idea when they were going to do damage, and you were like checking the wind, you know, using fucking artillery charts to try to check your trajectory and fucking range and shit, like, no disc priest is doing that shit. No disc priest is just YOLO. I mean, not any priest that's parsing above fucking blue. No disc priest is just being like, it feels like damage is coming, I'm in a ramp. You just have either explicit timers that tell you start ramping now, or you've done the boss enough times that you know, okay, he just did the thing, which means I need to start ramping because he's going to do the other thing soon. And there's nothing skillful about pressing Rapture and just going up and down the bars, dropping Raptures, and then double Radiancing. Like, that's not... It can be difficult to do it correctly, but it's not like somebody's, like, especially good at that. You just either know when to do it or you don't. And that's what I appreciate about some of the older healing profiles is, in a lot of ways, I think ramping is bad. Just as a default statement, I'm not sold on that. Like, somebody could maybe convince me otherwise, but as a general statement, I sort of feel like ramping is bad. I don't think you should be setting up for healing before the healing happens. I think healing should almost always be reactive. And this gets back to the idea of, like, absorbs and damage reductions, is that that's not healing. That's a different thing. And I don't think it should be the purview of healers. If you're going to have abilities like that in the game, I think that should belong to other roles. I think healers should heal. And healing, by definition, requires you to take the damage first. And then you undo that. That is the process of healing. The damage has to occur in the first place, and then you fix that. And when you use absorbs and when you use damage reduction, you're like, it's the wrong sequence. You're getting in front of the damage. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with those things, damage reduction and absorbs, but it is explicitly not healing. It's preventing the damage, which is not healing. That's a different thing. That's fucking prevention. You know, you can come up with whatever term you want for it, but it's not healing. It's damage prevention. And to me, as a healer, the fun part of healing is figuring out who the fuck is missing health and then doing something about that. Not trying to predict who's going to take damage in the first place before the damage has ever occurred, and then, like, do some shit to try to keep it from occurring. And I feel like, you know, this, like, for instance, Druid playstyle, where you're throwing out a bunch of rejuves before the damage happens. I don't think that used to be the way Druid worked. Or at least I remember playing Druid back in, like, Legion. I mean, I got like literal rank 1 parses as Druid back in Legion, and I don't remember this bullshit of, like, rolling rejuves across the raid before anybody... I mean, first off, the idea of being able to put rejuves on literally everyone in the raid is such a foreign concept, except in the most recent iteration of Druid. If you showed that playstyle to a Druid from, like, Nighthold, even the, like, Nighthold Druid set, when extended rejuves became a thing for the first time, like, even Legion, where extended rejuve began its arc as a thing, I don't think you were getting rejuves on everybody in the raid. Maybe you were. I think I actually remember rolling rejuves on the raid before pull, and you could get, like, rejuves on everybody, but that stopped as soon as the pull started. I feel like by default, almost all healing should be a thing that you press after the damage has occurred, not before it. Shauna, thank you for the resub. 70 months. Appreciate it. Thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot Babes, and I love you. You figured out how to edit YouTube Shorts. New skill unlocked. Surprise, I've got free new content. Yay! So yeah, to me, the fix for healing would be stop allowing you to do more shit before the healing or before the damage comes out, and start making healers respond to damage. I don't think you should be anticipating damage. I think you should be responding to damage. All right, I recognize them. Wait, latest YouTube short. Wait, Shauna actually made a fucking YouTube short of me. All right. Oh, I recognize this from General Hospital. Oh, Jesus. This has already been clipped on General Hospital. Fuck. Okay, hang on. How do I unmute this? I'm afraid it's gonna blast audio as soon as I turn it on. No, okay, good. Yeah, I was missing. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I just don't pay attention to my fucking health on Disc Priest. This, by the way, is what led me. I actually had zero desire to be alive at this point on the fight, so when it knocked me into the lava, I was like, "Good, fuck this. I don't want to do this pull anymore." And this is the thing. Okay, so I realized after this, like, I started looking at the meters on these fights, on the raid fights, and I'm gonna log on my Disc Priest real quick. One thing that became very apparent to me is the amount of self-healing that other healers do compared to Disc Priest. And I'm not really in the habit of asking for Disc Priest buffs, so don't get this fucked up. But also I missed a sub, I just realized. Right, thank you for the resub, babe. 7 months, appreciate it, and thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes. I think I still have my raid logs here. Okay, so yeah, Smolderon. Let's go find a long pole here. 509. I was dead on a lot of that, apparently. Let's find a long pole where I was alive, which might be difficult. 15. Bro, like any extended pole and I'm dead on this fucking boss. There we go. There's a long pole. Okay, so if we look here, it looks like all the healers managed to make it decently far into this fight on this one. If we look at the monk, number one heal, himself. Fucking 15% of his healing was done to himself. We look at Evoker, himself. 19% of his fucking healing was to himself. 19% of his fucking healing was to himself. None of this, by the way, is like active healing, okay? This is Leech, this is Panacea, and this is Living Flame, probably bouncing off of his 4-piece or 2-piece. Emerald Blossom that he's just throwing out anyway. Renewing Blaze is like the first thing where he's actually doing a thing to heal himself. So of that healing he did to himself, 8% of the healing he did to himself was from an actual like button press with the intent of increasing his own health. Same deal with Monk. When you look at him, Yulon's Grace and Leech and Shaylun's Gift, like none of this shit is like targeted. It's just all It's just all passive healing that's going into themselves. Expel Harm is like the first thing where he actually presses a button to keep himself alive, and it's 4% of his healing to himself. Then you go look at the priests. All right, so 13% of my healing was to myself, which is actually more than I was expecting. And it's almost entirely leech. And I think, okay, 17% of his was to himself. He was actually power word shielding the shit out of himself. What the fuck? I should do that. Maybe every one of my... Dude, maybe this is actually a good point. Maybe all of my fucking... maybe all of my ramps... I don't know why it only now occurred to me. I have a habit of any time I do a ramp, I start on the right side of my frames and just go top to bottom as far as I can. I'm always in the healer group, which is always on the left side of the frames. Our healers are always on the left side of my frames. Every time I do a ramp, for any healer that I'm ever touching, I always go on the right side and work my way left as far as I can. And maybe all of my Rapture ramps should involve shielding myself first. But yeah, this I feel like is actually more than this maybe not be as big of a problem as I originally thought, because I feel like in the past when I was looking at this, my self-healing was not nearly this high. But yeah, it's basically just leech for Disc Priest. Like that's pretty much it. Whereas for like Evoker, Panacea is doing... I mean, he's already getting a shit. What is it? 4 million leech healing compared to... How much was mine? 2.5. So that's like another like 60% leech healing over me. And then he's also getting a fuckload more from Panacea. And Mistweaver in this case. Yulon's Grace is just doing... Yulon's Grace actually out fucking healing his leech. Which is crazy. But yeah, that's a thing. Like on Druid, you just naturally do a lot of healing through, like if you have taken any damage, your Ysera's Gift is always going to heal. It's always going to prioritize you first. So Ysera's Gift is always ticking on you throughout the fight. Now that Druid uses photosynthesis for raid, you always have a life bloom on yourself. Like you're always doing passive life bloom healing on yourself. Hold on. By the way, there is like a fucking cold Hold on. I'll be right back. I can feel cold coming from somewhere down here. I can feel like a cold draft downstairs. Can we leave the crawl space thing open? Okay, whatever. So anyway, uh, the so anyway, the upshot of all of that question about how I feel about healing at the moment is, I would say, if I was trying to boil it down to a bite-size actionable point, I think healing in raid and keys. Well, I guess if I was trying to turn into two things here. The first would be, I think healing should go back to being more reactive. I don't think predictive healing is a good thing for the game. Because predictive healing requires like absorbs and DR, and I don't think that should be what healers are doing. So I think almost all forms of, like, you should start from the premise that all forms of healing should be reactive, and then if there's like a few cases where that's not how it works, but you should have to have a very good, interesting sort of idea for why it shouldn't be reactive. I think you should always start from the premise that a heal should be reactive and work from there. Secondly, I think healing should be less about cooldowns and more about rotational abilities, which is, I think, feedback that you hear about a lot of things, not just healing right now, that cooldowns are too important to the game in general. But I wish that your rotational abilities felt stronger and your cooldowns felt less impactful. And to the extent that your cooldowns do a thing, I think that your cooldowns should empower your healing, not do the healing. I think they should make the rest of your healing get stronger after you press it. So things like Trank, Healing Tide Totem, Revival, Rewind, fuck that kind of stuff. I hate those kinds of buttons. Give me back Powerful Wings. Give me back Tree Form as a meaningful healing cooldown. Give me back shit like Flash Concentration. Where I'm meaningfully healing people that I'm choosing to heal, not that I've pressed a button and it has decided to heal. Because to me, that's by far the most interesting style of healing, is when I am watching the frames to see who is taking damage and then working to fix that. I am healing them. And I feel like we've gotten very far away from that as a play style. Like, it's almost at the point in my mind where if you are at that point, if you're waiting for somebody to take damage and then responding to it, it's like too late. They're gonna fucking die. You have to have started doing something in advance to make sure they don't die. Raid bosses that demand reactive healing tend to be less complex mechanically. I mean, I remember, let me see. Do I still have this video on my YouTube? I think it was like the very first thing I put on my YouTube channel. Let me see if it's still there. It was my Mythic Odin kill. Maybe I'd never uploaded it to YouTube. Maybe it was only ever on my hard drive, in which case it's now gone, which is unfortunate. But I remember I had a VOD of when we killed Odin from Trial of Valor. And it was, at the time, I think it was the #1 Resto Druid Parse, or #2. It was like #1 or #2 Resto Druid Parse when we killed him. And I remembered that fight feeling so fucking fun to me because it was nonstop chaos. You're like constantly in the fight, running around, dodging orbs, trying to soak. Like, you're running around the room to your shape, trying to soak, and dropping spears off on the sides. And there's fucking balls flying everywhere. You got to dodge them. And so it was just chaos the entire fight, but people were also getting shit on nonstop. So you're both trying to keep your eye on the things happening on the screen, because if you get hit by something, you're dead. But at the same time, you have to keep your eye on the frames because other people are getting hit by things and need to be healed. And so there was this constant tension between watching the mechanics and watching the frames, and having to do enough, having to pay attention to mechanics enough that you don't die to them, but not being able to just focus solely on mechanics. And that to me was one of the most fun fights I've ever done in a raid. I really loved it. And it's my go-to. And when people ask me like what my favorite raid boss is, my default answer is Odin. I loved everything about that fight. I thought it was super fun, challenging, not because like the mechanics were difficult to figure out, which is another thing about raid bosses that I don't like these days. Is I feel like a lot of the difficulty about raid bosses is because of how many mechanics there are and how obscure some of them are. There are fights that I've progged for hundreds of pulls and I still couldn't tell you why the fuck certain things happen. Like people had jobs in those fights and I couldn't, if you told me to do that person's job, I couldn't have, because I didn't know what the fuck they were doing, because I didn't know why they were doing it, because it wasn't important to me. And I don't like that. I don't like when a fight has so many fucking mechanics. Like when I open up a spell log, and this is actually kind of tame, all things considered, I think. Where's a boss where... How big was Razageth's? Yeah, I mean, like fuck this. Like, what is this? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. And there's each one of these is a fucking plus. Like, all right, okay, I thought the plus meant that it was going to have, like, descending... Yeah, like this shit. Like, I press it, and then that turns into 2 more abilities underneath it. And, like, the fact that if I just sat here and read all of Razageth's abilities out loud, it would take me 5 minutes of continuous reading just to speak out loud all of the words in this journal. This is way too much shit for a boss. Way too much shit. And I don't remember how big the combat log was for Odin. Let me go back and look. This actually had a fair bit of... shit itself, now that I go back and look at it. But I remember feeling like this was a ton of mechanics back in Legion. I remember feeling like this was a shitload of stuff, and I think Razageth is like fucking 3 times as long as this. But yeah, this, even from memory, I can almost tell you what all these things... Dancing Blade, was he like threw... I think you had to bait this one. He like throws it at somebody and it leaves a spinning blade on the ground. Horn of Valor, was he just did a big ass AoE that fucked you up. Valor Jar's Bond, I actually don't remember what that... Oh yeah, this is when we have to spread the bosses. Can't keep them close to each other. And you have to cleave them down, or else they have to bring them down evenly, or else they start healing each other. Expel Light, this was another big AoE thing. Oh, no, this was single target, and then Shield of Light was like the boss faced the direction and fired a thing. You couldn't be in the way of it. And then you had to run around and do the runes, soak them, and they had guys that came out. You had to kill them before you could soak it. Small Disc Priest gameplay. I actually just logged on to look at my logs, not to actually play it. I need to do... How many more Mistweaver keys did I need? I think like 2 more. They even asked me about healing, and then we went off on a long-ass tangent. But anyway, yeah, I would say the defining element of healer gameplay where I've had fun, or there, you know, there's a there's the concept of like flow state that different fucking people will talk about, where like you're in your element and like you're just clicking, you know, like shit's just in the zone. And to me, in raid healing, where I've felt the most like that, when I felt like I was just like, oh fuck yeah, dude, like I'm playing my ass off right now, is a fight where there's a lot of mechanics happening and everyone's sitting at some amount of health less than 100%. And ideally like something closer to like 50 or 60%. And everybody needs healing. And damage is happening enough that it's impossible to top them off, but it's not happening so fast that they're necessarily at risk of dying imminently. But you're having to triage shield the whole time. You see somebody, like, one person's at 70%, one person's at 30%. They're both missing health, but it's not enough to just identify that they're both missing health and you have to heal them. You have to then make the conscious decision of, like, that guy is actually at risk of dying, 30% guy. 70% guy is fine. He needs healing eventually. Maybe I throw a rejuve on him. 30% guy needs swift mend or a fucking regrowth or something right now. He needs my bursty button. 70% guy can use my rejuve button. And you're having to make that calculation in real time. It's not enough to just be like, they both need healing, I'll press my big healing button and heal both of them at the same time. You have to select the right spell for that. And on Disc Priest, there is no, like, on Disc Priest, there's no right spell. There's just, I apply Atonement to them or I don't. And on Druid, there's not like a right spell. It's just like, I put fucking rejuve on him. Does he have one? Oh, fuck, I guess I'll put another rejuve on him. Oh, I'm bald? That is true. That is true. Dude, I can tell. Here's actually the shittiest part of baldness, of baldidity, is that it's not even socially unacceptable to make fun of bald people. Like, not only do you get, or like, not only do people feel bad about being bald, it's not even considered rude to, like, I mean, like, only mildly rude to say somebody's bald, to like comment on their baldness. Like if somebody was missing, you know, like a fucking eyeball or something, you wouldn't be like, lol, you're missing a fucking eyeball. You would be like, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I could, you know, can I refill your water for you? Like, you know, like, is there some way I can make your day easier for you? You look like you've gone through a lot. When somebody's bald, it's just like, well, you're fucking bald. You probably deserve it. And it's one of the very few things that it's not even, you know, I would compare it in some ways to being overweight, where like when people are overweight, there's a lot of people in society that think that it's fine to just call them fat, and like that's, but at least when you're overweight, there is, for most people that are overweight, there's something you could do about it. You know, you could lose weight. Most people are not at a point where they're unable to lose weight. There is technically something you could do about it. When you're bald, short of getting like surgery or taking fucking medication or some shit it would be considered sort of like unnatural, there's nothing you can do about it. And I feel grateful that my disposition in life about being bald is that I don't really care. It hasn't really affected my self-image. I feel like life would be fucking terrible if I if I cared about being bald, if that was an insecurity of mine, that was, you know, like a thing that affected my mood. Oh, dude, it would be so hard to be a fucking bald streamer. If you were affected by that, every time somebody said you were bald, holy shit. Best day of your life was when your wife, girlfriend at the time, told you you should shave your head. I don't know that I look good with a shaved head. Also, every female in my life has told me not to shave my head. There's been times where I'd be like, it'd be a lot easier to just shave my head. And then at first it was my mom, and now it's Shauna. They're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay. Ever wonder if Dorky or Growl are bald? I've been told there are pictures of Growl out there if you want to find them. Like some low effort sleuthing will uncover pictures of Growl. I don't think there's pictures of Dorky, to my knowledge. Women are not the ones that should be asking about shaving my head. I should do it for the boys. I feel like all things being equal, my wife's opinion about how I look with a shaved head is maybe the most relevant opinion anybody could possibly have on that. Probably even more than my own opinion on it. I don't have to look at myself most of the day. And I look at myself more than most people look at themselves because I'm a streamer, so a lot of times I'll have like a preview of my stream up on my other monitor and I'll see myself. But even then, I don't spend a lot of my day looking at myself. My wife, on the other hand, spends a fair amount of her day being in eyesight. You know, me in her fucking line of sight. Thing about shaving your head is if you started dating someone before you shaved your head, almost no one will think you should do it. It is a very jarring, even if you're like mostly bald, even if you're the type of person where like you've lost all your hair through here and you've just got the like corona effect going on, even that looks, even if you just shave like the sides and back, if that's the only hair you have left, even if you shave that, you look just like way different with a bald head. You think the bald patch looks good on me, but appreciate a hair transplant? If they ever develop like a fucking pill that just makes all your hair grow back effortlessly, I'd probably think about it. But as soon as any hair regrowing option involves surgery or significant financial investment, or if I'm not, you know, like the minoxidil shit or whatever, where it's like, yeah, it'll grow back, but like, it's not like you're gonna get your full head of hair back, you know. You like slow it down or get like slight, you know. It's like if it's not gonna grow back all my fucking hair, if my hair's not gonna look like it did when I was 15, I don't really give a shit. I don't want to be like less bald. like who gives a shit? I suppose there's a point where you are thinning ever so slightly enough that you can still convince yourself you're not balding. You know, like my hair at 21, you could definitely tell I was going to be bald, but at that point it was more like a precursor. I wouldn't have described myself as balding. It just would have been like, I'm going to start balding at some point, but we're definitely not there yet. It's just, if you see the telltale signs of it, you know it's coming. If I could get my hair back to that point, maybe. But like, if I got my hair back to the point when I was like 28 or 29, where there was still a bald spot, it was just less prominent, then like, I don't really give a shit. Started balding at 18. I actually legitimately don't know when I started balding because I'm pretty sure I was in denial for a while. And I distinctly remember the first time that I had the sort of unavoidable realization that I was balding because I was standing in a dressing room mirror where it was one of those mirrors that was like segmented around you so that you could, based on the angle of the mirror, you could see yourself from the back. Like the whole point of it was to be able to see what you look like from behind with something on. And I remember I caught sight of myself in that mirror and I saw the back of my head for a moment. And my first instinct was, who is that? Is there somebody in the dressing room with me? And then I realized that's the back of my head. And I was like, fuck. I had a similar moment. There was a Thanksgiving I went to at my sister's house and my dad took pictures. And there's a picture of me from behind at the table. It was a similar point in time. There was a picture of me from behind at the table. And I remember looking through the pictures and seeing myself from behind and being like, who's that? Like, I was looking through the pictures and I was like, doo, 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 doo. And I saw the back of my head. I was like, oh, who's that sitting at the... Oh, fuck. And up till then, I think I had maybe seen my bald spot, but just been like, maybe that's the way it always looked. Maybe my hair was just always been a bit thinner back there. I don't know. I've never really spent a lot of time looking at the back of my head. Maybe it's always looked like that, and I just never noticed. It is, you can gaslight yourself really fucking hard with balding. Like, you can lose quite a bit of hair back there, I think, and convince yourself that you're overreacting to it. It's not really that bad. I'm sure I'm just paying more attention to it than most people are. Like, I'm overly sensitive to it. But nah, like, you're going bald. It is that, you know, it is that prominent. You will lose your hair, and it just takes a while to like accept that. I think most people grow up. I even knew that I probably had a predisposition to being bald growing up because all of my uncles and grandpas were bald for the most part. Like, many more of them were bald than not. And so even knowing that, in the back of your head, I think in the back of your head, you're like, yeah, but that's not gonna be me. I'll be the one that doesn't go bald for sure. And there's like a acclimation period to where you have to realize that, like, nah, statistically, yeah, that's nice try, bud, but that's you too. All right, how many more keys do we need on this guy? 3 more. Fuck. I thought it was only 2 more. Okay. Dungeons. What dungeon? Okay, so I think I was actually in the process of trying to figure out if there was any dungeon that could still drop loot that I needed, and the answer is no. So I guess we just do I want to start pushing score on this character at all? Like, I have every tyrannical key at 20. Maybe I should start trying to slowly raise all of them to like 22. So let's see. I have a 21 BRH. I have a 22 Waycrest. I have a 21 Everbloom, 20 Throne, 20 Atoll, 20. Well, actually, it's just straight up 20 for most of these, right? All right, we'll go 22 Atoll. That seems achievable. 28 heal only. Okay, okay, okay. Probably not that one. Atoll. Actually, let's just go 22 to 22, and let's see what's out there. Is there anything that looks good? We're looking for a dungeon. There it is. Right there. That's the one. Group is fully Russian. Damn, and the insta summon too. We are set up for success. What the fuck is this song, dude? Stop. Jesus fucking Christ. Beep boop boop. Beep boop boop. Okay, we all here? Whoops, I am running the wrong direction. Let me apply that. All right, so we ordered a bunch of oldest stepdaughter turned 18 yesterday. We ordered a shitload of Olive Garden food because that's her favorite place to eat. We ordered a shitload of Olive Garden food and ended up with like way more than we ended up needing. And so we've got a fridge full of Olive Garden leftovers now that we're trying to get rid of over the next few days. So every meal of mine will have some element of an Olive Garden meal. We received like an entire pan full of breadsticks, like more breadsticks than I've ever seen in my life.
Let no one make it
CC.
I did not mean to press that button. Holy shit. Oh, did I just dodge that? Why am I not dead? I mean, I guess it's not fortified, so I probably wouldn't have been dead anyway, but... Am I gonna die? Oh my god. Thought I was gonna hit the lip there.
Four,
Can this guy not vanish or whatever? Okay, I'll do it for you, bud. You got it. Probably regret that, but whatever.
Four, three, two, one.
Why is my camera all fucked right there? What the hell? I just realized with hover, Boker's probably kind of goated for kiting this guy.
Four, three, two, one.
Why would you want to push Mythic plus keys from Battle for Azeroth dungeons? You did that like 4 years ago. Bro, why would you even want to eat lunch every day? You did that the day before. Like, you ate breakfast fucking yesterday and you want to eat breakfast again today? How mentally simple can you be? Like, grow up. Get some fucking hobbies. Like, you gotta fucking eat lunch like every fucking... You just did that shit yesterday and the day before and the day before that and literally every fucking day of your life. I actually don't fucking get it.
Four,
Rezan was a powerful Loa. Perhaps you will make a worthy sacrifice for Zul.
Did that guy turn right? What the fuck? I don't think I've ever seen somebody come up that ramp and turn right before. I actually need to remind Shauna. Somebody do me a favor and fucking tag. There's a way you can like tag shit on somebody's stream, right? Put that's the new YouTube short right there. Me fucking cooking that guy.
Targeted. CC.
Bro, are we dragging him up onto the boss? Oh my god, is this about to be huge? Wait, what is still doing damage? Oh, it's the transfusion thing. So you just spin? When there's enough mobs? Yeah. Yeah. I remember the first time Echo did this pull in the MDI, they dragged this up, it blew my mind. I was like, that's so fucking smart. Why did I never think about that?
Enter.
Oh, shit.
Enter. Enter.
My thanks for killing the priestess. You have only succeeded in strengthening my hold on the temple.
Oh god, dude. Do I like Monk? Yeah, it's fun. Monk's fun. The fuck did I just press? Oh, I pressed defuse. Oops, I meant to press eat mage food. Okay, I guess I should add my Mystic Touch to all of these.
Interrupt.
Okay. This one seems to be an issue at the moment. Okay.
Interrupt.
All right.
Interrupt.
Oh, Mr. Mage.
Interrupt. 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 Interrupt.
Middle pack? Probably middle pack, right?
Pieces again. No matter. I can
What do I think is keeping Monk from the front page? I actually don't know. I was just talking about this today. I have no idea why Mistweaver is not more represented in high keys.
Dodge. Dodge.
impressive. You made it harder than I thought, but I would still be drinking your blood.
Dodge. Targeting. Dodge.
Oh, it's already open. Fuck. Okay. Do I still play with Shaq? I mean, the opportunities to play together are certainly much rarer, but yeah, I mean, when I started playing Rumble, he and I were playing Rumble together in Discord for like a week.
The Tsar will awaken soon, but you will not live to see it.
Stack.
Soul be shattered.
Oh, Jesus. I was looking at health bars and not the fucking ground. I walked into that fucking spider. For all intents and purposes, I think I should have been dead there. I almost feel like NA ping saved me on that. Where's this rope? Oh, shit. What? Are we going someplace with this boss? Oh, fuck. What a long-ass boss. God damn. Okay. Already have those bracers. Haste verse bell. Do I want that? I don't think so. Bro, I'm over verse cap? What the hell? How? Was it because I crafted the ring? Holy shit. I need to drop verse. Is it time for these boots? Okay.
I have just the thing, Wanderer. Farewell, friend of the Grummles.
Let's go level those up.
Best goods in the Isles.
Alright. And that puts us under the verse cap now? Yeah. I want to do a 24 weight crest. Let's see here. What's my weight crest at? 22? Yeah, sure. Fuck it. What do I think of dropping Zen Pulse Echoing Reverb? They seem underwhelming. I would agree, but part of it is I just don't think there's anything that's especially cool in this part of the monk tree. There's some good shit down here, but the middle of it, it's all kind of underwhelming. Like, what are you gonna take instead? Like, fucking Life Cocoon Talents, Whisper, Uplifted Spirits, Final. I mean, like, all this shit's just sort of like, eh. Nourishing Chi and Dancing Mist. So what I don't like about Nourishing Chi is, like, I feel like it's kind of a bait, because how much fucking overtime healing are you actually doing as a monk? I think a lot of people read this shit and they see 20% increased healing, but it's not increased healing. It's increased healing over time. And, like, I'm just not doing that much healing over time. Like, where is even, like, Renewing Mist is my first healing over time spell at fucking 6%. Right now it's bugged. Even if it wasn't, I just don't think it's that good of a talent. And realistically, if I put Life Cocoon on somebody, they don't need any extra healing. I mean, god damn. If Life Cocoon goes on somebody, they are fucking fine. Tune name, real name? J.Chi on Terran Mill. That's not bug, it's how the talent's worded. Yeah, actually, now that I look at it, it does say this effect lingers on you for an additional 10 seconds after the cocoon is removed. So that seems a little counterintuitive, but that is how the E or NA? EU. That is how the talent is worded, is that the effect is supposed to go on you after it falls off. Why is Mistweaver gaining popularity as an alt? Because it's good enough to be meta. Why, if there were people that were not playing it before the last week or two, I don't know why they weren't. Like, I don't think Mistweaver should be gaining. If people are just now coming around to Mistweaver, it's because they didn't touch it on beta or PTR or whatever the fuck. It hasn't really gotten any better. It was just good. And if anybody wasn't up to speed on it before, it's because they weren't playing it previously. So it may just be that some people were, like, ignorant, just didn't appreciate what Mistweaver was doing. But literally from the second I picked it up on PTR, I was like, oh yeah, this feels fucking good. And I will say, I feel I feel a little chuffed up about my choices for what specs to level or what specs to gear out first, because if you go look at the Raider.io front page real quick, that's not Raider.io, Raider.io. Timed run, if you set this to, let's say, 25 and up. So 25 and up keys, you see Disc Priest, Mistweaver, Resto Druid. Which 3 specs did I focus on coming into this patch? Oh, I believe that was Disc Priest, Mistweaver, Resto Druid. Playing Disc right now, and it seems Druid and Monk do more healing, or do more damage. Druid definitely. Mistweaver, I feel like Mistweaver's, I think some of Mistweaver's damage is like, it's overall I think looks good at the end of a key, but some of that's fake because it's just like blasting on AoE packs. Like all this spinning crane kick damage is what I would call like fake damage. because this kind of damage is probably not making the key actually go that much faster. A lot of times for healers, where you really impact the time of a key is how much single target damage you do, how fast you can kill priority mobs, bosses, mini bosses, big mobs in a pack with a bunch of trash in it. Like for instance, in Atal that we just did, if you go do a pack like the middle pack, you got like the swords in there. So I'm gonna run in there, I'm gonna spin on it. Well, I'm gonna do a bunch of damage with spinning crane kick, but really all I was doing was like murdering these swords. I didn't really make the 3 big mobs die any faster. Or same deal on like some of these sword pulls with the sky screamers. You may run in and SCK on this, blast all these swords down real fast, but then you still got this fucking sky screamer you got to kill. And your single target as a monk, I feel like it's not bad necessarily, but when I compare the kind of single target that my monk does, it's not wildly different to Disc Priest. And I think monk single target falls off a lot faster when you have to do healing than Disc Priest would. So like, what was my Yasma damage? My Yasma damage was 45k. I wouldn't be surprised if I was doing on Disc Priest. I wouldn't be surprised if I was still doing like 60k or more on Disc Priest, because I just don't think your healing changes that much on that boss fight. Maybe you hold Mindbender slightly longer for the ads when they pop out, but you're still just going to be doing your rotation the whole time. And you bring PI. Bonkits, thank you for the resub, babe. 10 months, appreciate it. And thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes. And Astix, thank you for the resub, babe. 2 months, appreciate it. And thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes. Okay, let me go grab a drink real quick. And I'm going to grab like a breadstick. And then I'm going to try to get, I need 2 more dungeons, right? Yeah, I'll try to get the last 2 dungeons done. And then I may try to send a raid today on Monk. I need to do a heroic on the Monk at some point, I think. Still, it could use gloves, right? Yeah, it could still use tier gloves. So maybe we do some raid bosses after that. Or maybe I send some more keys. I don't know. We'll see. seriously, drink. You got a drink? No, it wasn't cold. It was just there was like I could feel cold air like moving. No, I checked the back area, and I mean it's definitely cooler back there, but. All right. So we got the 22 atoll done. What else would be like an easy 22? I feel like DHT would be an easy 22. BRH be an easy 22. Galcron's probably an easy 22. Well, I'll sign up for that. Done a 25 before. Okay. Everybody here? Yes, maybe, no, maybe. Temporal complex. Okay, I think everybody's in.
The infinite dragonflight has already
Oh, can I get a good transmorpher here?
We must
What's your spinning crane kick animation look like? Yep.
All dimensions are open to me.
He doesn't even put his foot out. He just spins. It's a spinning lariat move. That's some Zangief shit right there. No part of that animation involves kicks. He just spins his arms really fast.
5, 4,
All right.
3,
So it's just going to be a
2,
22. All right.
When are we? No. No. This can't be right. The Infinites changed the true timeline. This can't be happening. If Murzaun exists, that means Nostormo.
Shield.
No. No. We can fix this. We have to get back to the time ways.
Shield.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Shield.
What the fuck? What is that? Stop. God damn, dude, every time I drop my fade line, he like hard turns and starts running a different direction. It was like literally the moment I pressed fade line, he turned 180 degrees and just starts fucking beelining away from it.
Dodge.
I don't even know why I ran to that. I didn't even have my kick up.
Dodge. Dodge.
Okay. Tried to roll, hit a fucking tornado instantly. Oh shit, I thought that guy was running into kick. I got baited, dude. I thought he was going into kick.
Dodge. Dodge. Four. Four. Four.
What actually makes this boss spawn? What do you have to... Because there's been times where I think we've gotten him to spawn before all the trash was dead. So which trash has to be dead for him to spawn? I assume it's all the named mobs, but I'm not sure.
Tyr is fighting for the Infinites? No! This isn't right!
For too long I was bound by the shackles
Open, open. Wait, what?
But your path ends here. The infinite dragonflight shadow. Feel the horrors it has.
Enter.
My blows are infinite.
Dodge.
Behold your annihilation. My blows are infinite. Behold
Shield.
of the infinites. An infinite vision guides me. Feel the horrors it has.
Enter.
Apart, you are
Dodge.
annihilation is inevitable. My strike is true.
Dodge.
Annihilation is inevitable. Infinites grant me strength.
Fuck, that was kind of scary.
Infinite vision guides me. Your greatest fears
Spread.
My strike is true.
Dodge.
Annihilation is inevitable.
Enter. Dodge.
Annihilation is inevitable. Infinites grant me strength. An infinite vision guides me. Your greatest fears realized. My blows are infinite.
Dodge.
Annihilation is inevitable.
Enter.
You fall.
Dodge.
Behold your annihilation. Infinites grant me
Bro.
strength.
Come on. I tried to touch him through the shield, but he doesn't give a fuck. I'm like fucking killing myself in that field. Holy shit.
An infinite vision guides me. Feel the horrors yet to pass. My strike
Bro.
is true.
I don't want to dispel this if I don't have to, because I feel like... Yeah, I was like, it's just gonna go away, right? When he dies. Why is he not dying?
Always been a hero to dragonkind.
Am I using Glorbo?
Tell
No.
myself this wasn't really him.
I don't have that on this guy. He doesn't really raid.
Okay, let's fix this. We just need to. Uh-oh.
Our vision shall come to pass.
3, 2, AOE. AOE. 2, 1. AoE.
An infinite army might slow us down a bit. Time to get speedy.
Yo. Yeah. Okay. Just wait for you guys to get that out of your system.
The time ways are ours.
3, 2, 1. AoE. Three, 2, 1. AoE.
Oops.
3, 2, 1. AoE.
The time ways are even twistier than before.
Can you continue without stabilizing the rift? I don't know. I know you have to stabilize it to get that as a res point. So if you wipe and you haven't opened it, you have to do the whole run back through it. Ask me how I found that out. I actually found it out in a way that was like less painful than it probably should have been, because we were wiping. I was on my druid, we were wiping, and I realized people were releasing in the back, and I shadow melded and opened it up for everybody else. On a different character, I would have just had to have wiped and done the run back.
There's no way I can get us back to the past like this.
Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Fuck yeah, baby, just bring them all in. How do I like Monk? It's good. It's fun. That's a strong combination when it's good and fun.
The Horde and Alliance are fighting? Well, this could be any point in time.
Alright, now comes this fucking sinister ass fight. Did that guy just... Anybody know the lore behind that particular move from the Evoker?
Where is my lieutenant? We need reinforcements! Rally together
All right. Now, Anduin, don't be a dickhead.
for the Alliance!
Shit, I'm trying to type lust, but I can't fucking stop moving.
Ads.
Yeah. Fuck it, I just guess we don't lust. That's fine.
Take you! Fall to my blade!
Ads.
Hold the line!
Oh my god, dude. Oh. Okay. Maybe you misunderstand this fight? Oh, I have no idea what happens on this fight. I have no fucking clue what happens on this fight. One day I will learn when we wipe horribly to it, and I'm like, I should learn what the fuck this fight does. In the meantime, I just run around scared all the time. And I'm not here to play. What up, Hoff?
Well, too bad.
All right, Morchi.
I'll deal with personally. This timeline has no need for heroes. You won't ruin my timeline. Time bomb away. More Morchies are better than one.
Hi. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There can only be one Morchie. Each time, Sam. Stop in the name of Morchie. I have friends too. Time bomb away.
Okay.
Morchies, get out here.
Hi. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What good are you all? Each time, Sam. Let's put a pause on things. Time bomb away. I have friends too. Each time, Sam.
Did I not actually cast my fucking spell? The fuck?
Time bomb away. More Morchies are better than one.
Hi. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
There can only be one Morchie. Each time, Sam. I'll get it together. Time bomb away. This will trip you all up. Each time, Sam. Now
At least this is one of those fights where when people die, the fight gets easier because there's like less things that can hit the puddles.
High. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right.
You all know
Fuck, are we going? This way?
to do. What's this? A
I
time
think we
relic?
go this way. Oh, he's waiting for
Pointing to the right.
Shroud.
Poor Morchi. I wonder if we could have been friends in another time. She did have great
What do?
hair. A little heavy on the
Okay,
eyes,
so we
though.
just are.
Now we can open the time ways to the past. Come on. We need to save Nosdormu.
Do I need to res somebody? Dude, what is going on here? What are you waiting for? Okay, whatever. I'm so confused.
We only get one chance at this. Traveling so far into the past takes a lot of power, and I'm no aspect. Here we go! Aha! Well, here goes nothing.
Murasang shall rise!
3, 2, 1. AOE.
Can you handle this?
AOE. AOE. 3, 2, 1. AOE. Three, two, one. AOE.
The aspects are just ahead.
Trigun, thank you for the resub, babe. 27 months. Appreciate it. And thank you for your continued inclusion in the J-Dot, babes.
We face enemies above and below.
Alright, so we're gonna have like 4 minutes to kill this boss. I mean, there's no way that a 22 tyrannical takes this long if we don't fuck this up.
Trust me. Now, we have to face the
We just need to not die.
together this time. They're the black glowy dragons in the ravine.
Very well, little dragon. My friends, with me, we face them together!
It's easy, just don't die. Oh shit. Hang on, let me open up Notepad real quick. Write that one down.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
4.
Mr. Evoker, you got to get out of the thing. Oh no, dude. I don't really know what the fuck is going on right now.
5, 4, 2, 1.
This is so fucking weird. What?
We cannot. Your future will not come to pass. This will slow you down.
5, 4.
Is he still standing? Bro, is this some kind of... Is this some kind of tech, or do I not understand what's going on here?
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Our will is unmatched. For the future of Azeroth.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Cease your action.
5, 4, 3, 2, AOE. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. AOE. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. AOE.
This will slow you down.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. AOE.
Oh, Jesus, dude. Why did it bait in front of us? Oh, damn, dude!
4, 3, 2, 1.
It will not come to pass.
AOE.
Oh, man.
And dream of a better tomorrow.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Actually, I don't even know if we timed this key. Jesus.
AOE.
We had some deaths, but I feel like even with the deaths, I don't know that this boss was going to die in time.
The second slow.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. AOE.
I won't let you take
Dude, I can't time this key for the life of me. I don't know how many times I've run Rise this week, or in the last week, not this week, but I don't know how many times I've run Rise in the last week. It's like 3 or 4 times I've done a Rise where we've missed the timer by like a minute. All right. And what I love about not timing the key is how you get 5 aspect crests instead of 12. Like, I needed to feel worse about not timing a key.